The jovial mood among the senior officials suggested the outcome of this leaders' retreat would not be friction and fireworks, but rather common sense and compromise. In recent months, the Singapore and Malaysian governments have publicly sparred over a number of issues.
At least we are always on talking terms, and if we have problems, we air our problems, sometimes publicly, sometimes privately. What we have not done is that we have not confronted each other.
Our relationship between the two countries is rooted in long history and strong family and business ties. And this has remained unchanged even with the new Malaysian government. And we've worked hard to strengthen these ties and to overcome issues which have arisen.
The countries have now resolved a dispute over airspace in Malaysia's south across from Singapore, and diffused a dispute over overlapping port boundaries in the narrow Johor Strait. The two countries agreed to revert to the previous boundaries for now, not to allow any commercial activities or any government vessels to enter the disputed waters, and to start negotiations on delineating the boundaries as quickly as possible. But on the most contentious topic, the decades-old deal requiring Malaysia to provide raw water to Singapore for a pittance, the leaders still differ sharply, but agreed to keep talking and to go to arbitration if necessary.
I mean, these are continuing issues. If it's managed well, then it can be productive for both countries and the overall relationship can prosper. If it's not managed well, it can cause a lot of trouble and poison the overall relationship.
The leaders and their teams seem keen to seek an antidote to the numerous bilateral irritants, rather than to inflame matters further.
Mark Lindquist is one of the lawyers representing the Indonesian families that are suing Boeing for the crash of Lion Air Flight 610. Back in March, families of 17 victims filed the lawsuit, but now a total of 24 families have joined to take legal action. The complaint alleges that equipment on the Boeing jet failed, and the company did not inform pilots about the potential dangers of the new software on the aircraft, called the MCAS, highlighting that Boeing concealed that new system to boost sales.
Prior to the production of the 737 MAX, the 737 was a reliable plane with an excellent safety record. There are some serious malfunctions, though, with the 737 MAX, especially this MCAS system, this new computer software that essentially takes over the plane and dives it down into the ground. Our firm in Seattle, the Herman Law Group, is considering filing a lawsuit against the Federal Aviation Administration because they should not have certified this plane. It was not safe. It was not ready to be released.
Enki Bochana is one of the family members seeking justice. He lost his 24-year-old nephew, Tami Julian, in the deadly crash. Tami was stationed in Pangkal Pinang as a telecommunications employee and was visiting his parents in Jakarta for the weekend.
Akhirnya kami juga usaha.
No amount of money can bring my family back. After the authorities officially stopped the search on the 13th day, some of the victims' families gathered to carry out our own independent search. We hired boats and divers that cost up to $10,000 a day. We just want this issue to be taken seriously, so a similar incident won't happen again in the future.
Enki is now part of a group of families that have come together during this tough time, providing constant support and encouragement to one another. Under the Indonesian law, Lion Air was already required to pay more than $90,000 per family. But this lawsuit against Boeing is more focused on seeking justice and creating safer skies for all.
Safe, stable, sustainable. These are just some of the words used to describe Singapore. An economic miracle. The city-state has consistently maintained its position in the top 5 of most competitiveness indices. Pro-business policies, ever-improving infrastructure, political stability, favorable tax environment, and its strategic geographical location have all contributed to the country's competitive advantage.
The fact that investors trust that the environment in Singapore will be pro-business, will be stable, and we've proven that over many decades, right? And we have strong rule of law, strong protection of intellectual property. Why investors and talents want to come to Singapore is really the livability in Singapore.
The ease with which people can be hired, licenses obtained, taxes paid, trading across borders, all these things are extremely easy to do in Singapore.
Singapore's Economic Development Board overlooks business strategies for the city-state. They believe that innovation, especially digital innovation, will play a key role in maintaining the nation's competitive edge.
Singapore's competitiveness will be defined by the innovation capacity and capability of Singapore. We've spent a few decades now to build up the science and technology base here. The startup ecosystem for the past 6-7 years have been very vibrant because Southeast Asia is starting to attract a lot of investment interest and a lot of entrepreneurs.
With global competition intensifying, the rest of Asia is working towards enhancing its own competitiveness. They're making tremendous efforts in terms of infrastructure and policy reform.
We are finding reformist governments in India and Indonesia and elsewhere making a huge effort to improve the basics of their business environment.
Asia is not without its challenges. Manu Bahaskaram, who follows the Asian economy closely, warns that the trend towards deglobalization and protectionism could impact the region's competitiveness.
Well, this part of the world, including Singapore, is highly dependent on the global economy. The region depends on foreign inflows of capital, both direct investment in factories and so on, as well as in terms of portfolio capital, investing in equity and bond markets. We depend on tourism.
Some analysts believe that an aging population, rising costs, and insufficient productivity will hurt Singapore in the long run. But despite these challenges and increased competition from its neighbors, the Republic's value proposition as a business hub remains strong.
Millions of social media users in India are being flooded with political content these days. It's election season and political parties are using all the tools they can to woo the voter.
I look at the social media content from my perspective. I ask myself how I am benefiting from this message.
Sometimes we get fake messages that you should vote for a particular party because it will be beneficial for you. But such messages have a negative impact.
When we swipe on Facebook, we're flooded with political content from various political parties. I would say social media is full of election content.
Election Commission of India has announced that the digital platforms have to adhere to the Model Code of Conduct.
One, the content itself, it should follow all the rules and regulations and the laws and the Model Code of Conduct. It should not be incendiary. It should not lead to hate speech and communal caste appeal and all that. Second is the expenditure. Every penny spent on any media, including social media, has to be accounted for.
There is a cap on expenditure by individuals, but there is no cap on the expenditure by political parties. It is obvious that the present government is in a position to mobilize more funds, and that skews the election in their favor. It will be a challenge for Election Commission to monitor the expenditure of political parties, especially on digital platforms. Social media companies have agreed to carry only pre-certified political ads and share the cost of these ads with the Commission. But the activists believe that this is not enough.
We understand that almost 70% of world's social media traffic is passing through 3 organizations, Google, Twitter, and Facebook. Then I think there should be some responsibility somewhere, particularly when it comes to things like elections.
With about 500 million Indians using the internet, these steps taken to ensure free and fair elections seem inadequate. A magnitude 7 main shock struck the city of Kumamoto in southern Japan on April 16, 2016. The earthquakes killed at least 49 people
and injured some 3,000. However, a small village of 480 houses at the Also farmland resort were not damaged at all, thanks to the quake-resistant domed roofs and the light material that was used to build those houses, styrofoam. Now the houses have made Also Resort one of the most popular spots among tourists from Japan and other Asian countries.
The house is way more spacious than we thought. We can see the sky right through the little round window in the middle of the roof. It's really beautiful.
Visitors to Also farmland can enjoy numerous leisure activities, including open-air hot springs and farm animal feeding. A house can cost up to 1,000 yuan per night.
We attract visitors here to stay for the night with this special hotel experience, living under a dome roof so that they would be here for the whole day, taking their time and trying out all the leisure experience and entertainment facilities. We want to cure whoever that comes here with this gentle and healthy relaxation style.
The styrofoam dome houses were being built elsewhere in Japan for both commercial and residential purposes. People also like the material because it is anti-rust and it blocks heat better than regular construction materials. And it's easy too. 3 grown-ups can finish building it within a week using their bare hands. A dome house is sold at around 500,000 yuan in Japan, only 2/3 the price of an average wooden house.